Hi there. This is the Wisdom and Thy Youth audio show, an interfaith space for the rising generation and the young at heart who believe in God and in Jesus Christ. I am Lori Beard, your host. As a mother of 8 children, life coach, and youth enthusiast, I trust the rising generation's potential for greatness. Jessie Wicker has competed in speech and debate events for the past 4 years with several national leagues. She is American Speech and Debate Association's 2023 national champion, both in both Lincoln Douglas debate and impromptu speaking. She currently serves on ASDA's Student Leadership Council and is the captain of her local debate club, where she teaches speech and debate skills to other competitors. Jessie is a senior at Founders Classical Academy in Louisville, Texas, US. And I am so happy and honored to have her here today. How are you today, Jessie?
Doing pretty good. How about
you? I'm doing great. One question that I have for you, Jessie, is that I want to know, what role does empathy play in your debates, especially when discussing topics that may conflict with your personal beliefs?
Right. So this is a difficult question because, of course, I and everyone ends up debating about things that we really care about, right? And so we get into arguments where we really strongly believe something on one side, and it can be really difficult to see the other side of the debate. And I think that we have to remember not to feel guilty about that because it's just human nature to not instinctively understand the other side immediately. To be able to take a step back and to see the other person as a human and to be able to know where they're coming from, it really allows you to have a conversation. Because I feel all too often in today's world, either people are too scared to have an argument in the first place, or it just turns into this almost violent screaming match. And we don't need to have either of those extremes, right? That we can have decent, good conversations about our real values. And even if neither ends up changing their mind, we can understand a different person better.
Why do you think is that then? Is it people are too defensive? People are too close-minded? What is your experience? What have you been able to observe?
Many people fall into one of two categories most of the time. Either they're too scared to share their opinion, um, or too worried about being vulnerable to listen to the other person truly. And I've seen myself falling into both of those before. So it's quite relatable, but it's something that we can learn to change about ourselves.
You have a lot of experience with the debate clubs and
Yes.
these organizations. What are some tips? What are some steps or key steps that you can share with us today so that we can have more conversations like this moving on?
I think that when you get into a conversation like that, it's important to ask yourself, why am I having this discussion in the first place? Do I want to genuinely learn? And if you do, if it's from a place of innocent questions, you can tell them that. You can start out by saying, "Hey, I value you as a friend, as a person, and I want to learn about your experience or your opinion on this view, and please just tell me about that." And then often when you create that open environment, then they'll ask you for yours as well. I have trouble with this, that when I ask people these questions, to just listen and not talk, right? It's important to remember they may not ask you for your experience or your views, and that's all right. Maybe this is just a learning experience for you, right?
Okay. So pre-framing it kind of like, hey, because I value you, I want to ask you all these questions out of genuine curiosity, like pre-framing it that way, like preparing the soil, so to speak. Okay. And then being ready, and not have the expectation that the person's going to do the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, sometimes people do say things, especially when you're arguing about something, or arguing is the wrong word, when you're debating about something that is like a hot topic of today. Then someone will say something that is just really out there, or it's really radical in some way, and you don't like that, and sometimes just listening can make it feel as if you're agreeing, but that's not true. And what I often do is I'll ask people, why do you believe that? Like, tell me where you're coming from. They'll say like some very radical like political stance or something, and I'll say, well, tell me how you came to that point, right? Tell me why. And it helps to understand the person as a person, right? And not just as like a statement they made.
And is there any parts of this conversation that we should have it in our mind to want to change the other person's mind, or that's something that needs to be dropped? How do we go about that?
I don't think so. No, I think that's coming from the wrong direction to say that I'm going to talk with this person so that I can change their mind, because it ends up that you get defensive and you get into this I'm right, they're wrong position, when really what often happens with me is I get into these conversations with my debate friends especially, and all of us have this training that we are so civil about it, right?
Okay.
There's no fire beneath anything, right? We laugh while we're talking about really serious things, and it ends up that both of us will have our minds changed a little bit, because both of us will see each other a little bit more and understand, right?
That is fantastic. And you both have changed your minds because the same thing, like, oh, now you understand where you're coming from. Now you understand where I come from. Is that kind of like the
Right. I
magic?
mean, it's it's sort of the magic of doing debate in the first place, because you really dive into the resolution, which is just the topic that you're debating, and you are forced really to research and to see fully both sides of the question. And even if you have a real bias towards one side of what you personally believe, in in those rounds you argue in favor of the other side. And so what that means is that you come away really with a more like moderate view on the topic, because you understand that there is true research on every side of an equation,
That is so
and
good.
you can't discount one side. And of course we're talking about things in debate, like I argue philosophy in Lincoln Douglas, but even with more real world topics, that's still true.
There was so much turmoil in the world. I came across this meme or this graphic or this drawing where two men were standing in front of a number, and on one side one saw number 6, on the other side the other one saw number 9, and they were both right. So I love what you said about that, because there's some truth to, or there is a complete truth to each of our sides of our points, especially when we consider compassionately and understanding, where the person's coming from. You were saying something about Frederick Douglass.
Frederick Douglass is one of my real role models when it comes to expressing my own ideas, because in his personal narrative, his autobiography, really, he he manages somehow to see the other side. And of course, he was a slave who was then freed. And if I was in that situation, I would be very, very angry at those who would enslave me. And he is somehow able to see their humanity. And that seems like such an impossible task for me to see the the humanity in the people that were so terrible to you. But I think that at its core, um, that's what everyone should strive to be doing. That even in those people that have personally hurt you or personally offended you, or hold such stances that are just directly against your identity or who you are, to be able to understand that they are people too, and that they are in situations that led them to be the way that they are, it's something that I'm always trying to do. And I don't know if I'll ever get there in the way that Frederick Douglass was able to get there, but I hope that maybe someday, you know?
Jesse, this is very hard to do. And it leads me, of course, to think of Jesus. What a great example he was of forgiving people's trespasses and forgiving and understanding each other. So how about this? Can you share a memorable experience where your faith or values guided arguments during a debate, or a conversation where you were kind of triggered, or
Sure. Oh, let's see. I'm trying to think of the best one. I have had a lot of debates over the years. There was one I was in a debate with my grandmother, actually, who I love and respect, but she was saying some pretty mean things about a certain group of people that some of my friends belong to. And so she felt as though she was just saying some general things, but I felt as if she was personally attacking people I knew, which of course wasn't true, but you know, it felt that way. And so I didn't obviously change her mind on the topic, but I did explain to her that this affects real people that you know. And this is something that is like it's a real moral topic. And she is very religious, and so I brought that in as well. I said, you know, this particular thing didn't come up in the Bible, but what would Jesus have done in this situation? Would he have uh, ostracized and exiled my friends just for who they are? I don't think that he would. And although she didn't change her mind on the topic, I hope that I was able to get through to her that this is real life. When we're debating a lot of these things, that this isn't some hypothetical. Even when you're talking about philosophy or something that seems really out there, it can be directly applied to people we know. And so it's important to keep in mind to do what Christ would do, and that is to unapologetically love everyone anything despite anything about them, where they come from, where they stand on issues, or anything of the sort.
That is so beautiful. That is so amazing. And what an example you are. Okay, so this is called the wisdom in the youth, because I want to help the youth to be wise and find resources of wisdom that will impart wisdom. And you, as a youth, just imparted that to me. I'm a grandma already, and you are teaching your grandma. You are teaching me. And that is amazing, Jesse. So thank you for your example. Thank you for your courageous way and the way you explain it to me with that peace and posture and confidence. I'm sure it's the way you were talking to your grandma, I hope.
Oh, not quite. This was 4 or 5 years ago, and I was a little less experienced then.
I'm sure in that spirit, your grandma still kind of was able to capture what you were telling her. And so. hopefully she learned, right? Like, oh my goodness, this little girl is teaching me this. So what are you wanting to do with this wonderful talent you have, and you're continuously developing and imparting because you share and you train others now, right?
Yes.
What is your goal? What are you wanting to do with this?
Ever since I was really young, I have wanted to change the world in some significant way. And you know, I'm not really sure how I'm going to do that yet. I don't know. But I hope that this training that I've had in debate will allow me to do that someday, to really change something, whether it's doing a lot of charity work or getting involved in lawmaking and politics, or whether I do become a lawyer. I'm not quite sure yet. I'm only a senior in high school, but I hope that I'll be able to use my voice to help as many people as possible.
And it is okay to not know exactly how. What
Right.
matters is that you know in your heart, what is it that you want to do in whatever field, in whatever areas. And I know, I have a feeling you will, because you are already doing it. And so what will be a final message that you would impart or you would share with the youth out there that listens to this? I always say it's the youth and the young at heart, because I feel like I'm a little young at heart. So the parents, the guardians for the youth, those aunts and uncles and caretakers.
Yes.
What message do you want to say about how to use debate, how to use constructive conversations to go on in their lives? What is your message of how important this is?
Remember that you do have a voice, you do have an opinion, and it's yours to use, and you should use it. But remember, use it respectfully, use it kindly, and even though it is really, really hard, when you use it unkindly, when you get into an argument and it gets too heated, go back and apologize. It is the hardest thing I've ever had to do, to go back and apologize after an argument where I got too angry. But remember that kindness is the thing that you should always focus on, even if it sounds a little wishy-washy. Remember that everyone has a voice to use just like yours, and everyone is as valuable as you are. So try to keep those conversations peaceful and loving no matter what you're talking about. And you always have another chance.
There you go, Jessie Wicker. So much wisdom in here, guys. Just play this again, listen to it again on how to have amazing conversations, how to realize that is so important. And I appreciate you sharing that, Jessie. We have a voice. Our voices are important. We are used to lately feel like we need to censor ourselves, our opinions. And no, we should be encouraged to continue using our voice. Is important. Our opinions, our viewpoints, as long as it's with respect, right? Not putting anybody else down, and just saying, hey, this is my opinion, and allowing others to do the same. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing today, Jessie. And I hope you guys will take so much out of this as I did, have this conversation with this wise, wonderful young woman here. And until the next time, take care. And thank you for being here, Jessie.
Thank you.
Let's embark on this incredible journey of self-discovery together. Remember, the answers you seek are within you. Until then, stay curious, stay open, and may the wisdom of the ages and the sacred records guide your path.